Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new Warhammer painting video. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, drop a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys, it goes a massive way to help the channel too. And without further ado, should we take a peek what's going on today? So, in this painting video, I'm going to go through how I've painted up my Kurdoss, Valentian, the Craven King model from Mortal Realms magazine. Fairly simple paint scheme, not a huge amount to it. A couple of things to note before we jump into it though. There is two ways of base coating this model. You could do it entirely in Corax white if you wish to, however painting up the seat can be a little bit tricky and a little bit awkward and not the easiest. The way I've done it though is I've painted up the ethereal parts and the parts that are very, very ghost-like as in Corax white. And then I have also base coated Mechanica Standard Grey for the main part of the seat, but it looks like it's made out of rock anyway. And I have also dry brushed Administratum Grey over the top of it as well to kind of give it that look. Some parts of it overlap a little bit, so you do need to do a little bit of jiggery pokery with it and kind of mix and blend a little bit later on. Once you got your other core colours down, you can kind of blend them up a little bit and try to make it look like the seat is coming out of the seat, which is the main thing for it. But with that said, let's crack on with it, shall we? Might as well. So, as I've said, I've started off with Mechanic Standard Grey and Corax White base coats. I've already done dry brushing on the seat, and now I'm layering up Nighthaunt Gloom over the kind of the ethereal parts that are kind of making the seat hover from the actual base. This gives it a bit of a different look and it stands out from being plain grey or using something like Nilic Oxide, for instance, or anything like that. It does make it kind of stand out, and of course Nighthaunt Gloom being kind of like a precursor to the kind of the contrast paints that we get nowadays. Now, for the kind of servants on the side of the seat, I have used Hexray Flame for their lower halves. This is a very, very standard kind of colouring that you'd get on a lot of Nighthaunt models painted by a lot of different people. I quite like this colouring. It does kind of fit in. It does look quite etheric and kind of grim and ghastly and everything like that, and it does work. Now, for the top half of Kurdoss himself, I have gone with Blood Angel's Red contrast paint. Very, very simple scheme. Literally, you will layer it up once over Corax White. It will still be a bit bright, so if you layer over again, it will darken it and make it look a lot better, and make it look a little bit more grim at the same time. Now, back to the kind of the servants at the sides. Baden Black is the colour of choice for the top halves. It fits in very nicely with a lot of the other Nighthaunt that I've done, things like the Chain Rasps and the kind of the Hex Wraiths and everything like that as well. It just fits in. It's one of them kind of colours. It works very, very well as part of the colour scheme for these Nighthaunts. And then for the lower half of Kurdoss, I used Ethematic Blue, which is also one of the contrast paints. Another very, very handy contrast paint to have, and it stands out a little bit. It's not too bad. It's quite a nice look, and it works very, very well in this paint scheme. Now, you have the option of going over it multiple times to darken it, of course, and I chose not to. I chose to go over it just once, leave it looking a little bit patchy in parts, and it adds to that kind of gloominess to it as well. For the back of the seat though, I have used Nilic Oxide, which is probably the first time, one of the very few times that I've actually used it for any of the Nighthaunt models. And this is just because it's just something slightly different. It makes it look quite nice, it does actually work quite well, and it's not too bad really. It's a pretty good little colour scheme. For small parts, I wouldn't do all my Nighthaunt in it because I like them to have a little bit of a different look to them. Now, I Mechanic Standard Grade over the kind of the armour piece and the helmet for Kurdoss, and then I literally layered over with good old Lead Belcher as well to kind of give it that silvery look. Now, there is a good reason for this. The way I wanted to do the armour is to give you that kind of a dingy gold look later on, which comes in very, very handy with one of the other contrast paints when you layer over that silver. Now that contrast paint in particular is Skeleton Horde. This gives it a goldish look, which makes it look very, very different. It doesn't make it look like too bright of a gold, and it doesn't make it look too silvery. It's kind of at a nice balance in between. You don't have to do any highlights to it if you don't want to. You can just leave it as is. Talking of highlights though, it is time to start dry brushing some Corax White over the wispy bits of all this ghostly energies, and yeah, just literally have fun with it. There's no right or wrong way to do it, just plough over it, and then you will go over with Mechanical Standard Grey to blend it in the grey of the seat with the kind of the flamey bits of the ghosts as well. And then I used Wildwood contrast paint over the pole for the banner that is being carried, and yeah, it works very well over contrast paint. If you're not over Corax White, if you're using it over a grey, it does not lighten up at all, and there is very little definition. If you do it over Corax White with one of these browns, they actually fit quite nicely. It works quite good. Just be very, very careful and not make sure you don't get it over all the other parts of the model. Now there are a few steps that I didn't record as well, so I didn't record the painting of the banner itself, which I base coated with corn red, then layered over majority of it with Mephiston red, and then I also used some good old Wild Rider red and for edge highlights, and of course then I used Retributor armour to paint up the gold filigree on there, and Ironbreaker to paint up the boat, the barding and everything like that as well, to kind of fix it to the pole itself. The actual pole top is Retributor armour as well, and there are some other little bits and pieces where I used the same type of colour scheme as well. So all in all, a very, very nice model to paint. It's not the full kind of tutorial, I haven't gone through every step of what I did, but you can kind of get the gist. It's very, very similar to what all the other Night Haunts that I've done personally, in all honesty. So have fun with it, enjoy it. If you want to share the photos of how you've done your Kurdoss, Valentian or anything like that, you can join my Discord server. There's no selling, there's no pushing anything. You can join it if you wish to. You can share your photos, you can talk to people, you can get tips and ask for people to help. You can dish out tips if you want to. Talk about Warhammer lore, talk about any other tabletop game as well. So if you collect like Marvel Crisis Protocol or Rumble Slam for instance, or anything like that, or even Lord of the Rings or Warhammer 40k, you can talk about them if you wish to. There are many different spaces on there. It's a very early days kind of Discord server. It's not been around for very long, but you can do that if you want to. By all means, drop by, share your photos, have a chat, meet some friends, have fun. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the near future. Bye bye now.